Hi, so that canister looking thing there is a CO2 generator, and to make CO2 I add bicarb of soda and citric acid as powders into it. Citric acid first, bicarb of soda second, and then water with that at a 45-degree angle. I fill it up with, I pour the water in, I put the top on, the process starts, the reaction starts working straight away, and the reaction between the bicarb and the citric acid produces CO2. The little black thing that's up on the top of there, that's a solenoid, and it turns the CO2 on and off. It's plugged into a plug along with the lights of the fish tank, so when the light comes on in the morning, the solenoid turns the CO2 on and it releases the CO2 into the water through a diffuser at the back over there somewhere, and it produces micro bubbles that the flow of the water take around the tank, and then the plants in the tank absorb the CO2 through their leaves, and using photosynthesis, so using the light, they change the CO2 into oxygen, which they then release again through the leaves, and they produce oxygen which helps to keep your fish alive in the tank. The plants also absorb the nitrates and the nutrients that the fish produce through their poop. So the reason that the plants are growing so well in this very heavily planted tank, and the reason the water is looking good and kind of clear, is because of the fact that there's CO2 which is being converted into oxygen through photosynthesis. Now there's a thing at the minute, it's been going for a while now, about reducing CO2. I'm just trying to say that the things in this video are my own opinion. So CO2 in a fish tank, a lot of plants in the fish tank, like that variegated one there, and there's some at the other end. Hang on, sorry about the quick move along. So those green ones at the end there, they're submerged house plants, and the reason that they're growing in the fish tank so well is because of the fact that I'm injecting CO2 into the water column, and their plants are using that CO2 as if they would on land, and they're absorbing it through photosynthesis to help them to grow, and it's doing a fantastic job. All the plants are growing really well in all my tanks that are planted that have got CO2 kits on. Now, as I say, the comments that I'm making in this video are my own opinion and not other people's. I'm just pointing that out, alright? The world is going on about reducing CO2 in the atmosphere. There's a very minimal amount of CO2 in the atmosphere per parts per million. I like scientists like Sir David Bellamy, who's no longer with us, but if you type in Sir David Bellamy into your Google and search him and listen to him and see what his quotes were before he passed away, he'll tell you that the Earth has been going on a cycle for many millions of years, and the Earth gets hotter and colder, and it's not necessarily to do with the CO2. I'm just pointing these things out. The problems we have on Earth are that the human race is actually polluting the Earth with plastics and chemicals and all sorts of things which are being pumped into our atmosphere, or they're being pumped into the skies and into the rivers and the seas, and plastics which are causing no end of trouble to the Earth. If we put more effort and money into the pollution problem that we're causing on Earth, and kind of not forget that the whole thing with electric cars and the trying to do this net zero so that we don't produce so much CO2, it's not really doing it, I don't think. This is my own opinion, as I say, but if we if we put more money into stopping pollution and we planted more trees and forests and grasslands and stop polluting the oceans, which also absorb a lot of CO2s, the microorganisms in the oceans, the plankton and things like that, they also absorb the CO2. And so if we were to clean up our oceans, stop pumping sewage into them, stop putting plastics into them, stop putting chemicals into the skies and things like that. I'm not saying that, about contrails and all that sort of thing, but if you, again, go on Google and type in, or just go on Google or say to Siri, what chemicals are being pumped into the sky, then it comes up with a whole list of things. Well, why would Siri know that? That's something that we don't. All you have to do is ask her, and she tells you, whether it's computer AI or whatever, it tells you that there are chemicals being pumped into our skies. Well, that's terrible, isn't it, for the earth? That's pollution. That's pollutants being pumped in. If we made things cleaner, then we wouldn't have to worry about these things. And if we planted more trees, the earth would be able to sort out the CO2s that we're so worried about. I just think that the governments of the world are getting things the wrong way around, and they're trying to give us more problems than they're trying to solve. And you've got things like the World Economic Forum, and they're saying about CO2s and stopping, you shouldn't fly anywhere, you shouldn't eat meat, you shouldn't do all this sort of thing. If we did eat less meat, then that would probably it would probably encourage us to grow more plants, which would help. But the people that, when you see them sitting there having their meal, they're all eating meat. I don't know why they're complaining about the rest of the population not eating meat. And all those people that went to Davos or flew there on a private jet, they're not stopping us from, they're saying that we shouldn't fly so much, and yet they all fly there. It can't be one thing for one and another thing for another. That's just not right, is it? Anyway, I've gone off subject there, but CO2 isn't quite so bad as, I don't think, as they all say. It does feed the earth, it feeds the plants through photosynthesis, which helps the world, and it helps to produce oxygen. In all the countries where they're chopping down the trees, they should be planting as many as they chop down. If they changed everything back to making everything out of paper and cardboard, paper bags, cardboard boxes, wooden boxes, they'd be planting more trees. And if they made more products out of glass, bottles, which can be recycled very easily, then we wouldn't have the problem with the plastics. If we just went back in time and made everything out of plastic, out of glass, paper and cardboard and wood, then we wouldn't have this problem, I don't think. So everyone should go out and plant a tree. In China, they're re-greening the deserts, and they've come up with a way of planting trees in deserts using what looks like wallpaper paste, which they pump into the sand, and then they plant trees on top of it. And if they plant them in the right order, the trees feed each other. So you can get trees, black locusts and all different trees that will feed the ground. I mean, I'm a gardener for a living. You can plant a ceanothus plant, and that absorbs nitrates out of the air, which it pumps into the ground, which feeds other plants. There are ways around doing all this sort of thing, but I'm just thinking that, as I say, these are my own opinions. CO2 is a gas of life. Do a lot of research for yourselves. Look at Sir David Bellamy and go and watch some of his amazing quotes on the fact that the Earth has been going through cycles for millions of years, and it's been warming and cooling, and it's, there's been CO2 all the way through Earth's history. But the amount of CO2 that's in the atmosphere isn't quite as bad as they all seem to think it is. And using electric cars, you've still got to mine all these different components to make the batteries, which is going to cost just as much money. And when you charge a car up, you have to use You have to burn something, coal or something, to produce the energy. I mean, it'd be nice if they didn't, I suppose, but you could either go with like nuclear or fossil fuels to generate the energy to charge the batteries of the cars. I just think that it's kind of crazy that they're trying to make everything net zero to cut down on the CO2, and all I'm saying is that CO2 is actually a gas of life. It's not as bad as they're saying. I mean, I might be wrong, it's my own opinion though, but I'm just saying CO2 isn't a bad thing, it's a gas of life. The problem that we've got is we're over polluting the world, and we're not planting enough trees back into the world to absorb the CO2 and the different chemicals and the nitrates and all that sort of thing. Anyway, that's my ramble and my rant over and done with. The things in this video are my own opinion. I hope everyone's well. Take care. Cheers.